Reclaim your frame. When interest dies, power is born the moment a woman realizes you've lost interest. The ground beneath her shifts. It's an instant visceral change in the atmosphere that she can feel in her bones. For too long, you might have been the one providing the emotional steady state, the one checking in, the one making plans, the one ensuring she felt secure and seen. You were the sun she orbited, but the second you stop chasing, that orbit breaks. The power dynamic, which has likely been tilted in her favor for a long time, flips on its head. Suddenly, the air between you feels heavy with the unspoken. She begins to see you through an entirely new lens because you've done the one thing she thought you never would. You stopped needing her. This isn't about playing petty mind games or using cheap manipulation tactics to get a reaction. This is about masculine reclamation. It is the process of taking back the parts of yourself you gave away for free, and remembering that your life's purpose isn't to audition for her approval, but to fulfill your own potential. You have to understand that as a man, your attention is your most valuable currency. It is the fuel that drives relationships and the light that women seek to stand in. If you are tired of pouring that precious energy into a void, into someone who doesn't value it, reciprocate it, or respect it, then you must realize that you are currently bankrupting yourself for a bad investment. When you stop spending your time and thoughts who treats your presence as an entitlement, you finally start investing that capital back into yourself. You stop being a spectator in her life and start being the protagonist in yours. This shift is magnetic because it is grounded in reality. You aren't trying to act like you don't care. You are actually starting to care more about your own mission, your own fitness, and your own peace of mind than you do about her latest mood swing or her delayed text response. True detachment is not loud, and it's certainly not bitter. It's not about sending angry texts or trying to prove how over it you are. In fact, the more you talk about being detached, the less detached you actually are. Real detachment is a cold, surgical clarity. It is the quiet realization that the bridge is no longer worth crossing. When you pull back with this level of calm, you confront her with a reality she never truly expected. Your presence is no longer a guaranteed feature of her life. Most men are terrified of this moment because they fear losing the girl, but a man of high value welcomes it because he knows he can never lose what was never truly by pulling back. You stop the bleeding of your own self-respect. You are moving away from a desperate place of needing her to validate your worth and moving into a position of aligning only with those who bring equal value to the table. The moment your soul stops orbiting her world, her moods, her reactions, her social media posts, she feels the gravitational shift immediately. Women are highly intuitive to energy. They know when a man is mentally checked out. When you stop being the predictable nice guy who is always just a phone call away, curiosity replaces comfort. She begins to wonder why the man who used to be so invested is suddenly so focused on himself. This is where desire reignites. It doesn't happen because you staged a performance. It happens because you became a mystery again. You became the man she has to earn back, rather than the man she can ignore at her convenience. Always remember that predictability is the death of attraction. If she knows exactly what you'll say, exactly when you'll call, and exactly how much you'll tolerate, she has no reason to respect the frame you've built. By reclaiming your interest, you rebuild your mystery, and by rebuilding your mystery, you reclaim your power. 1. The energy shift. Disruption of monopoly. The moment you truly detach, her energy undergoes a radical transformation that you will notice almost instantly. It usually starts with small, subtle reach-outs. Those just checking in texts, a random meme, or a question about something trivial that she could have easily Googled. You might see her lingering a bit longer in your presence, or giving you looks that seem to search for the man she used to know. It's vital that you understand what is actually happening here. This isn't necessarily a sudden explosion of love or deep connection. Instead, it is a visceral, primal reaction to a loss of control. For as long as you were pursuing her, she held the emotional monopoly over the relationship. She knew exactly where you stood, exactly how much you cared, and exactly how much effort you would put in to keep her happy. You were a known variable, a constant source of validation that she could tap into whenever she felt like it. By withdrawing your energy, not with a loud argument or a dramatic breakup speech, but with a quiet, stone-cold focus on your own life, you have disrupted that monopoly. You have created a vacuum where your attention used to be, and human nature abhors a vacuum. Feminine energy thrives on attention and emotional exchange. It is the oxygen of the relationship. When you suddenly cut off that supply, the resulting silence becomes deafening to her. It's a silence that carries a powerful message. It whispers that you no longer need her approval to feel like a complete man. This is the exact point where most men fail. They feel the shift, they see her reaching out, and they mistake it for a win. They think finally she's coming around, and they immediately go back to their old ways, chasing harder, texting faster, and trying to secure her again. That is the definition of emotional slavery. You are essentially telling her that you are only strong until she whistles. True masculine power is the internal ability to walk away from anything that no longer serves your purpose, and to stay away. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca famously noted, the poor man is not the one who has very little, but the one who craves more. When you stop craving her presence, her body, and her validation, you cease to be poor in her eyes. You become self-contained and high value. This only works if it is real. You cannot fake this energy as a tactic to get her back, because women can smell manipulation a mile away. Your focus must genuinely shift to your mission, your physical strength, and your ultimate purpose. When she senses that you are actually occupied with building your empire, that is when the disruption of her monopoly becomes permanent. 2. The power flip. From chaser to decider. The minute your interest fades and your focus turns inward, the entire power dynamic flips on its head. In the past, you were likely the chaser, the one constantly monitoring the temperature of the relationship, wondering why she was being distant and trying to fix things. The average man folds the very second a woman pulls away. He panics and tries to bridge the gap with more effort. But the grounded masculine man does not flinch. He understands that by being the source of constant, unearned validation, texting every morning, responding within seconds, and always being emotionally available, he wasn't providing security, he was providing boredom. Predictability is the absolute death of desire. It breeds complacency, and in a relationship, complacency almost always leads to disrespect. When a woman realizes that your value and your attention are no longer a given that she can count on regardless of how she treats you, she is forced to stop taking you for granted. The decider is the man who determines who gets access to his time, and by losing interest, you have reclaimed that title. Your true power lies in how little you need her to feel like a successful, happy individual. When you stop feeding the connection with your own neediness and pick-me energy, she stops wondering what she wants and starts obsessing over where you went. This is the stage where she will begin to test the waters to see if she still has a hook in you. She might send a late-night "I miss you" text, post a provocative photo she knows you'll see, or bring up a shared memory. Do not bite. This is the ultimate test of your frame. If you rush back into her arms or start pouring out your heart the moment she shows a glimmer of interest, you prove to her that your detachment was a lie, a mere tantrum designed to get her attention. If you break, you lose all the ground you gained. True strength is staying unmoved by these breadcrumbs. You must let the space between you do the heavy lifting. Your absence needs to be a constant, nagging reminder to her of the high-quality man she failed to protect and cherish. By staying in your own lane, you move from the man who begs for a seat at the table to the man who owns the table. 3. The weapon of silence. Silence is not just a lack of words. It is the loudest and most devastating weapon in a man's arsenal. When you go quiet because you have genuinely lost interest, it shakes a woman's psychological foundation. Because women are naturally wired for communication and emotional exchange, the sudden cessation of that exchange triggers a deep internal audit. She will begin to replay every conversation, reread every old text, and scrutinize her own behavior to find out where things went wrong. Silence is not a passive act, it is an act of dominance. It signals to the world and to her that the negotiation is over. You are no longer interested in debating your worth or pleading for better treatment. In a modern world where men are taught to over-explain their feelings and beg for closure, a man who can simply walk away into the shadows without saying a single word is viewed as a king. He is a man who has won the battle over his own impulses. The most effective response to disrespect, flakiness, or emotional games is never a long, angry paragraph or a heated phone call. It is total, absolute absence. Your silence communicates something that words never can. It says, "I have moved on to a higher version of myself and your actions no longer have the power to reach me." This realization hits a woman harder than any argument ever could, because an argument still shows that you care enough to fight. Silence shows that you no longer care enough to even notice. However, for this weapon to work, you must be disciplined enough to hold the line. This means you do not check her Instagram stories, you do not like her new photos, and you definitely do not reach out to clear the air or befriend. You must let her sit in the vacuum you left behind. You aren't a babysitter for her emotions. You are a man on a mission to build a legacy. If she cannot align with that mission or respect the man behind it, she loses all access to you, period. Your silence is the boundary that protects your peace. 4. Passing the final tests. Once she realizes that your pullback isn't a temporary phase, but a permanent shift in your identity, the real tests begin. This is the final exam of your masculine frame. Because she has lost emotional control over you, she will try to regain it through various forms of subtle emotional pressure. She might use sarcasm to devalue your new focus. She might try to provoke a reaction by being intentionally cold, or she might even try to make you jealous by mentioning other men. Understand that these actions are not random. They are calibrated tools designed to see if you can still be rattled. She is looking for the old you, the one she could manipulate with a flick of a switch. If you get defensive, start explaining yourself, or try to prove your worth to her, you have failed the test. You have just handed her back the keys to your peace of mind. A man without emotional discipline is nothing more than a puppet, and no woman truly respects a puppet she can control. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius taught that you have power over your own mind, not over outside events. Her games, her moods, and her social media posts are all outside events. Your only responsibility is to remain unshaken and still. When she sees that her most calculated attempts to trigger you or make you chase her again fall flat, her attraction for you will actually deepen to a level you've never seen before. You are no longer the guy she can handle. You are now a mystery she cannot solve. This isn't about being toxic or intentionally cruel. It is about being centered in your own reality. If she realizes she can no longer move your frame, she is faced with a binary choice. She will either rise to meet your new higher standard, or she will exit your life entirely. Either outcome is a massive win for you. The right woman will admire your restraint and strength, while the wrong woman will be frustrated that she can't use you anymore. By passing these final tests, you prove that you are a man who values himself more than he values the company of anyone who doesn't see his worth. The hard truth, rise or be left behind. The ultimate moment of truth arrives when a woman realizes that your interest has finally evaporated. This is the mask-off phase where the games end and her true character is forced into the light. Up until this point, you might have seen her through a clouded lens of infatuation, giving her the benefit of the doubt, and making excuses for her lack of effort. But when you pull your energy back and stop feeling the connection, the illusion shatters. You will finally see whether she was actually invested in you as a man, or if she was simply in love with the way you made her feel, the attention you provided, the ego boost you gave her, and the security of knowing you were a safe bet. For many men, this is a painful revelation because they realize they were never a priority. They were just a convenient safety net or a backup plan kept on a leash of maybe. When you stop playing that role, she no longer has a reason to pretend. This clarity is a gift, even if it stings, because it stops you from wasting another second on a ghost. You must understand that your detachment is an inherent threat to her sense of control. Most people, regardless of gender, enjoy having influence over others, and when she realizes she can no longer pull your strings or predict your reactions, it creates a psychological crisis for her. However, what feels like a threat to her is the ultimate freedom for you. This is the level of mastery where you finally learn how to care without collapsing. You reach a state of being where you can appreciate a woman, you can enjoy her company, and you can even love her, but you never, under any circumstances, link your soul or your self-worth to her presence. You become a man who is outcome independent. If she stays and treats you with the respect you deserve, life is good. If she leaves because she can no longer manipulate you, life is also good. You are no longer a hostage to someone else's whims, because you have anchored your happiness in your own purpose and your own progress. This final stage acts as the ultimate filter for your life. It simplifies everything. If she is the right one, a woman of high character who truly values the essence of who you are, She will feel the vacuum created by your absence, and she will step up. She will realize that she pushed a good man too far, and she will make a genuine, visible effort to meet you at your level. She will respect the boundaries you've silently set, and will work to earn back her place in your world. On the other hand, if she is the wrong one, she will simply disappear. She will realize that you are no longer an easy source of validation, and she will go off to find a man who is easier to control. Let her go. Do not chase, do not beg for explanations, and do not mourn the loss of a parasite. A woman who leaves because you started valuing yourself was never a woman you could build a future with anyway. This is the path of the masculine leader. You set the standard, and others must choose to rise to it or be left behind in the dust of your progress. You are not a stationary object waiting to be picked. You are a moving train headed toward a destination of greatness. The people who belong in your life will find a way to get on board and contribute to the journey. The ones who don't belong will get off at the next station. By mastering the art of losing interest in what doesn't serve you, you create the space necessary for the right people, the right opportunities, and the right woman to eventually enter. You are no longer auditioning for a role in her play. You are the director of your own movie, and you only cast those who are willing to put in the work. Stay focused on your mission, keep your head high, and remember that the man who is willing to walk away is the only man who is truly free.